Is politics ever worth fighting for? See, arguing for might be a point, but fighting for politics is never an option. It shouldn't even be a consideration. Because in the end, what is politics? See, politics can be given all sorts of definitions, but there was a wise voice that gave, I think, by far the best definition, that of a small party which takes place, but always without you. It is a small closed environment reserved for those who are capable of taking the most um, risks, maybe, or those who integrate the most. Let's actually say those who integrate the most into agendas that the specific set of politics has to serve. Yes, because politics means serving something, a certain direction, or whatever you may say. Typically, politics is represented by a small group of people that handle their own things. And, well, they take these plans, outward towards a certain other group of people, an entire country, or, well, who knows, maybe they go even further than that. We have seen that politics hasn't served the interests of people too much, and obviously it seems to serve only the interests of a few people. When you look at how things go into the world, everyone seems to be fervently lending their energy towards one of the sides. Nowadays, when you look carefully at the world, there seem to be so many fucking sides, and it's kind of impossible to um, decide which would be the best to follow. In the end, when one thinks, what is it that one would want to follow? Because then you have wars going on in the world. But the question comes, are those wars political? Or are those wars just, you know, something going on? Because nowadays, when everything is overly political, you can't ever agree to something like the war in Ukraine and Russia or the Israel-Palestine war is something that just goes on. You know, many people put the blame on religion. Many people put the blame on anything. See, what if the whole world is nothing else but a political stage? Yes, Shakespeare said that a long time ago, that the whole world is a stage. Even Roman emperors said that the whole world is a stage and that you need not agree to anything. When you take a look at the Bible, even Jesus says, when things will happen and they will go this way and they will go this way, you don't listen to those, you don't follow those, right? There were passages in different books saying that evil will come bearing the signs of the good. When you look even in the Bible, it is said as a revelation or more like a prophecy, whatever you want to take it, that the devil will be walking one day on the streets with a cross in his hands, right? You see, nowadays everything is only horrible decisions being taken. And many times it feels that events are being orchestrated to happen so that more draconic options are ensured for governments. When you ask yourself, governmental work, what does it mean? They're doing governmental work. It feels a bit that English is a cult by design. When you pronounce certain words, you can understand certain hidden meanings. When you say governmental work, you kind of realize that the only purpose governments have is to shape people's opinions and the such. It kind of stinks a bit of most of the governments in the world kind of being in cahoots. And when you look at how things happen in the world, they always seem to be announced first. And when they happen, it's like nobody seems to care much. People die in the end, innocents die, and well, the mass media says its own things, and then advertisements and social media try to simply cover stuff and or keep people distracted. Julius Caesar said, and well, he wasn't the only one who said, if you want to keep the people distracted, give them, bread and circuses, right? Pane et circenses. Now, if we go even further into this, politics always seems to have been a good tool to create separation. Yes, a sick society needs separation because at first separation means people will just argue. Then people will become fanatic arguers over something. When that happens, the divide widens. People no longer socialize much. When people don't socialize much, they don't have much of a foundation for life. They end up easily thinking that life is not worth anything. These people become far easier to control. Yes, because social beings do not like it. They cannot exist outside of social interactions, right? Now you're seeing so many things happen, but you never know how they exactly happen. You see so many sources claiming that, Russia attacked Ukraine. Well, when the war started, it was a bit funny that uh, Russia initiated a war and bombed several cities throughout a certain period of time. And after that, Ukraine admitted, like in an official way, that they had 400 casualties, which was a bit curious. Like they were crying that their whole country was bombed, or well, a big part of it, and military bases and cities and towns. The mass media showed entire regions devastated. But the question was, were you actually sure that those were specifically from Ukraine? Don't forget that they presented you a video from Arma 3 as a possible footage, real life footage from Ukraine. Don't forget that when they presented you the earthquake in Turkey a few years ago, they used footage from the tsunami in Japan. So, as the mass media constantly proves you, you don't have to believe it too much, because it's always more and more barking for the hand that feeds it, right? So, if we are to think a bit, can you actually really trust the news when they are lying to you so often? A lot of people point things out, but most of the people just prefer being the herd, following, the noise, because, well, it is the easiest, and, well, obviously it is the most comfortable. A lot of people think that comfort is, the greatest thing. That is what a sick society wants you. If you are comfortable, the point is being comfortable means you are easily complacent. When you are complacent, what will happen? Well, being complacent means that you will agree to their agenda. You will agree to whatever politics serves. Yes? Politics will serve a certain group of people, and it's usually going to be just those. When you don't have too much information, well, you can't make an opinion much. When you look at different sources, well, let's think a bit about. Ukraine said they lost only 400 people at the beginning of the war, while they had several cities and towns bombed and military bases. Were those 400 people only military people, which is a bit more plausible, or were those civilians as well? But when you bomb so many cities and towns, you can't tell me that you have been ambushed by Russia and you only lost 400 people, right? So when these things happen, is it that they are preordained? Is it that there is a certain understanding in between several parties that the war has to happen in a certain way and that certain amount of casualties have to happen? Because in the end, would you be surprised if Putin and Zelensky might actually be in the same boat? Obviously, to a lot of people, it may sound very dangerous to believe, or it may sound very funny to believe, right? They will probably instantly discard it. But the question is, you've always been told that people have to die, no matter what, right? You've been told all sorts of things about, for example, the Kalergi plan, right? And you've been hearing all sorts of things here and there. Politics will do their business, irrespective of whether you believe it or not. The point is, you don't need to necessarily bother yourself with arguing with other people, because they will either be fanatically supporting something. When they are fanatically supporting something, is it that, well, it's not gonna help you at all. They're gonna simply keep to their own point of view because they are comfortable with that. They're easily comfortable with that. They're not gonna argue on anything else. When the war against Russia began, they were telling you that Russia is, very weak and it is incapable of doing anything. Now, several years into the war, you see so many countries fighting against Russia, but still, for some reason, nobody seems to be capable of defeating Russia. when you look at the war and how it's going on, a war with present day technology wouldn't last 3 fucking years, 4 years, or whatever much it lasted till now. I think it's 2 years or almost three, something around that, right? Would you think a true war would actually last that much? I don't think any war would last this much with the current technology that we have. And we don't even need to dive into nuclear weaponry, right? Now people are happy that, Russia's nuclear bombers were bombed, right, by Ukrainian drones. See, Russia never required those bombers because they are bombers capable of taking, let's say, nuclear weapons. Yes, Russia was not interested in using nuclear weapons in Ukraine because, let's think logically, if they really wanted, they would have dropped them. Nobody would have done anything, just like nobody is doing anything till now. Yes, they're just sending weapons. Well, maybe they're sending weapons, but that doesn't help much because still the Ukrainians are doing the hard work. The same thing has been going on through many of the wars in Europe. Yes, the big powers have been providing, for example, my ancestors with resources and the such to fend off some of the Ottoman forces, for example, or some of the Tsarist forces, but rarely did they ever join us in, fending those off. We did the hard labor. Now, as wheels turn, Ukrainians turn is for that. They always tell you that one of the sides is very weak, and then apparently that side is far stronger than expected. Yes? So politics never lies on reality. It always uses assumptions. Most likely it knows everything it needs to know. But in order for politics to be successful, manipulation tactics need to be employed. And the best one is to cause separation in between people. Because when people end up no longer being capable of trusting others, because when people think that their opinion is the only one that can be true, will they trust anyone else? No, they will not trust anyone else because in the end, why would they trust them, right? When someone's frantically trying to prove a certain point, well, why wouldn't they be pissed that other people simply don't follow that, right? There seems to be only one of the sides seems to be censored heavily, but the other does not. Politics supports certain changes in the world, but it seems to always do the opposite, right? When you look even at Trump, Trump always seemed to be the reliable person, but he did betray humanity twice. Yes, they had an accord with Russia, right? The nuclear accord program, which, both of the countries would use their own satellites and they would position their bombers, their nuclear capable bombers, in locations where the other countries' satellites could have them, under their visor, so that each country would know should the other one make use of those bombers. Well, the other one would actually be knowledgeable. And would you be surprised in the end if Trump actually gave that information to, or well, it had it slip to Zelensky, and Zelensky actually made use of it? When they launched that attack against Russia, what did it happen? Well, Trump said he did not know anything about that, right? Because now the USA is assuming a different role. They are no longer the one who aggressively attacks others. It just makes people join a certain war, and as you can see, they're just sitting on the sidelines, while others are just fighting till they get exhausted, and then they will simply claim everything. Yes? When um Israel declared the war on Iran and fired its missiles. Iran fired back. But what did Israel say? Well, it has its own right to defend itself. You cannot say you have a right to defend yourself when you start a certain military action. Yes? And everyone seems to be just stupidly supporting one of the sides. In the end, there was a quote that a source, an interesting one, that said, if you take a look at the World Economic Forum, you will see that most leaders of these countries, even Israel with Iran, are actually friends in there. Supposedly they should be friends, and if they are friends, what if it's all just a setup, to simply do what politics wants, full-scale control over everyone, one way or another, because that is what politics means. You will do whatever you want at the detriment of everyone else, right? Don't you see the pattern going on in here? So when it comes to things like this, it is better to simply start viewing things from a far greater perspective. Instead of just looking at 10, 20 things, ask yourself the questions and the answers should come, right? Why is it that you have so much disinformation about everything? Everything seems to be so worse, and then there are easily so many sources that say nothing is actually happening in there. Yes? Is it maybe a global reset? Is it just keeping people busy? Because in the end, there are politicians who say, and who've said in 2012, for the first time officially, in all the news broadcasts across the world, that we are too many and the rich ones want to simply exterminate us. Yes? They said it, well, the rich people want us to be far less. Yes, they said it in a news broadcast on 2012, I think in August or something. I don't remember exactly. But the point is, politics will always follow their own point. You simply cannot agree that someone is going to ever be your savior, right? Nobody is coming to save you. Only you have to do the work to find out what can be found out, whether there are going to be places that are going to be safe in the world and most likely move in there. Yes? Because when you look at politicians, nobody is going to be a savior of anyone else or anyone specifically but them. Politics will always follow their own points of view, whether you believe in one side or the other. Well, it might be a wake-up call for people to consider the option that both sides might be actually sides of the same coin, and neither of them actually wants your good. Yes, because the only thing politics have been doing nowadays, up till now, if you look well in the world, is draconic measures, orchestrated events that led to more draconic measures, and also many packages that sound well but don't do anything good for you. They're telling you that the world is being polluted by us humans, but their NGOs and companies pollute the world far more than just the regular people. But what are those other than narcissistic tactics? Guilt tripping and shaming people to think that they are the problem. Idiots will always believe everything that they are told, and it's always the first source that tells them something that they will follow. Yes? So don't bother too much about politics. Discuss on it, talk about it, but don't flare up. Because if you fight other people, you're only making your loneliness greater, your desolation greater. And your desolation means nothing else, your ruination, right? When you feel more miserable, what will you want? You will become someone who either has masochistic tendencies or sadistic tendencies. You will want to see other people cry. You will want to see other people miserable. Can you see that also in many online games as well? It's like many of the games you play, it's like you specifically play it against people who just want you to make you cry, who just want to make you cry. Yes, want to make you feel useless in that game. They sweat their asses for pressing a few buttons, thinking that they're humiliating you in a game. It's just a press of a few buttons, right? All games have their own buttons. Life in itself is a game if you look at it. It's all about not becoming serious enough about it. Because look at the world. Every time something becomes serious, a new war breaks out, right? So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated. Take care, enjoy life. And this being said, Ferenc Board signing out.